Hi, welcome. This tutorial will be going over how to create a run sequence in Supercollider. So Supercollider is great. You're able to do things in real time and evaluate them. So if you wanted to play a sine wave, you can simply do sine os ar dot play. You can do that. You'd have to boot your server, so you might do something like s dot boot, something like that. Do that. Wait for your server to boot, and then you can evaluate that, get your sine tone playing, and then command period to stop it. Do things like that. I don't want to get bogged down in a more specific example, but you can do all things by evaluating lines of code. It's a great environment for live coding because you can just augment and change things on the fly. Okay, but sometimes it's helpful to have just kind of a boot sequence when you're trying to do a whole bunch of code all together, and you're just trying out little things, and you wanna reassign things. You want to change a little bit and then boot the whole thing together. So I imagine there's a lot of different ways to do this, and maybe even better ways. Supercollider tends to lend itself to that sort of thing where there's lots of different ways to do one thing. But this is one way I've chosen to do it, and I'll use to do everything. I'll use the command s.wait for boot. Okay, so what this does, and then it needs its opening and closing brackets. What this does is and then I'll recompile my server. It waits. It boots the server first and waits until the server is completely booted, and then it'll execute any of the code inside. So that's a nice thing to do. Right. So if I was to go ahead, and then I'll also put these brackets around them. These is kind of parentheses will allow me to run everything all at once, right? So as long as I'm clicked anywhere within those parentheses, it'll run everything all at the same time. So this time, if I do it again, it boots. Okay, great. Now, magic of pause. Now I've created this synth def here, and then I want to start the synth. If you're not familiar with what's going on here, go ahead and check out a couple other videos on synths and synth defs. So if I wanted to do that, let's see what happens. I have a feeling, so I'm going to recompile, feeling it's not going to work. Right, so it says failure in server synth def not found, because it's trying to add the synth and play the synth in the same kind of frame period. So this hasn't been loaded up yet, and it's trying to do that. So that's sometimes you want to do things in kind of an order. You want to have a pause between things. Some processes like maybe loading up buffers and stuff take a little bit longer. So you want to do that, take a little pause, and then run the rest of your code. But for those of you who have experience with this kind of thing, it could be the kind of situation where you're, command return like 10 times down the page in order to get a bit of code to run. So this will allow you to do everything all at once. So I just want to introduce you to the routine. You can schedule. There's a lot of different ways to do this. You can schedule things within a routine, so you can do sort of kind of timing. And I find the easiest way is to use the command fork. Okay, that creates a routine, and a routine of anything between these curly brackets. And so if you go, one dot post line, then you can make a command to wait. You can take a little pause. So I can say one dot wait, 1 second, and then I'll go 2 dot post line. Okay, so if I evaluate that, it'll go 1 and then wait a second and then print the 2. Hopefully you caught that. Okay, so with this fork, with the routine, the fork brackets, you can create timings within that. So I'll have a s.wait for boot, and then I will start a routine. Fork, open curly, and then just make sure I have 2 closed curly brackets down there as well. Okay, so now in this case, I can load up the synth def, wait a slight bit. It doesn't have to be very much. I'll just wait 1/100 of a second or something like that. Dot wait, and then play the synth. Okay, or make an instance of the synth. Okay, so if I recompile again and then run that, it runs the thing. Okay, so in that case it worked because it had a little brief pause, and then you can put those timings all throughout your code as long as it's within a fork. Right, so I find that's kind of handy I tend to do things like that. Now, the final little bit that might be helpful, that might not necessarily need to be used, is you can put a little bit before this if you want to change any server options. So oftentimes there's a memory allocation s dot. Let's see. Let's find this options dot mem size. Well, oftentimes I go num audio bus channels. Like I have to expand the number because I use too many audio bus channels. So let's say make 1,000 of those. Okay. So now in this case, you don't quite need it this big, do we? So everything's on the one line. So in this case, what I'll do is I'll set the options first. I can't put my hand on the actual command, but there's one that increases the memory allocation. Sometimes you need that when you're running some pretty intensive synths and stuff. So I'll do that. I'll increase the number of audio bus channels. I might increase, do whatever. There's a number of server options. Do a bunch of stuff there before I do the s.wait for boot, and then that will change the options for that. It'll wait for the boot. It'll run your routine, and it'll all do it, all together. Okay. So if I go ahead and do that, recompile. So you can, change a little bit and recompile and then run. Just command return anywhere within those brackets. Okay. Now, if I just evaluate s.options.number audio bus channels, you see I have 1,000 channels there. It's changed the default there. Okay. All right. Well, I think that's it. We'll wrap that up. So you'll see me use this technique in a number of future videos. So this is the video to explain all that. Hopefully that was useful to you.